Everyone, thank you so much for coming down. I know he already did intro, but I'm going to do another one because we are live now. And I apologize for the volume, everybody that's watching. We don't have a mic, and I don't think my mic is working. But anyways, let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to be moderating a panel on decentralized finance. So if you guys want to go ahead and introduce yourselves.
I'm Daniel Castanoli, co-founder and president of Exodus.
Ernesto Huerta, CEO of CryptoSpace.
I'm Leon. I have a YouTube channel that also called CryptoBud. So I do YouTube and do a couple of appearances and conferences.
All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. So I would like each of you to kind of give your own definition of decentralized finance, and we'll just start with that, and then I'm going to start asking you guys questions. What the definition is.
Okay, so start here and move down.
Yes, sir.
So for us, decentralized finance is a way to kind of equalize the playing field. Right now, a lot of us are lucky in the sense that we live, if you live in the United States, we live in a place that we have a lot of access to financial instruments and ways to actually do things with our money. This is not the way of the world, and I believe that decentralized finance is going to kind of open these doors to equality to a lot of other individuals.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, it's life-changing. This is the first time that we're not beholden to one entity. By having other options, you don't become a victim. People don't understand what it's like, how vulnerable we all are. When someone loses a bank account, when someone says you can't have credit, those days are over. I mean, there's bank account, banks are afraid. They don't like people in our industry. So now we have an opportunity to opt out, and it's catching on. So it's a great time to be alive.
I agree with that, just because there was a time in my life where I wasn't able to get a bank account because of poor choices that I made when I was growing up. So being able to be in control of my finances now is important. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, decentralized finance, based off of what I'm seeing right now, is the next evolution of cryptocurrencies. I mean, if you take a look at Bitcoin's original premise, it was to decentralize practically the currency system. And what you're seeing right now, especially with the evolution of Ethereum and basically what happened since '09, this is basically Satoshi Nakamoto's overall vision of basically owning your own, I guess, fiat currency and not having it in a centralized location. And I think decentralized finance speaks for itself when we say that we're all in cryptocurrencies because we've had experience with centralized systems such as banking, where basically we get nothing for it, and they get all the benefits of loaning out our money and then them actually reaping all the benefits of us working hard. So I think cryptocurrencies are moving into, the next phase, which I call it phase 3, and I think that's going to be the most interesting phase of for the next 10 years.
So how long do you guys think until decentralized finance really takes over and fights with centralized finance? Because centralized finance has been so ingrained in how we were brought up. I remember the way I was brought up is like you every time we got money for our birthday, even if it was like $1 or $20, you'd always put it in the bank and you would save it. You're so used to going to the bank, depositing your money and earning that like small interest. So how long do you guys think till decentralized finance is really going to catch on, till the majority of people realize? Because we all know that, at least me, I knew that banks, didn't always seem right to put my money in, have them hold on to it and earn a little bit of money back. So we all know that, I think that other people see this as well, but they don't necessarily know that, there's another option. How long do you guys think until it's really going to take effect? Is it going to be generations? Is it going to be like a decade, 2 decades? What are each of your thoughts on that?
I would love it to be as fast as possible, but I really feel that it's going to take a while. We are so early. I also think that although decentralized finance may be okay for certain individuals, I don't know if it's good for everybody, because I think some people actually may like to still put their money in a centralized system. They may actually feel better about that. Now for us, I think it doesn't work for us. But I do think that there's going to be a choice to do that. And right now, there is no choice. And I love the opportunity that going forward, there will be a choice. To answer your question, I think it's probably, if I had to put a year-ish or so on it, I think we're looking at 5 to 10 years until it really starts to become super easy enough for everybody to really start to go, oh, okay, I can use this as an option?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that even crypto is not very decentralized. When most of the people get their crypto to Coinbase, or you can't pull out withdrawals out of Binance, until everyone learns how to take responsibility for their own assets, until decentralized exchanges are easy to use. I mean, I tried Ether Delta and it give me a headache.
It's hard for me too, and I trade, so it's hard for me, and I just
Yeah.
stay away from.
Yeah, so I would say we're still a long ways to go when that's the main hub where people go. It's super centralized. They control everything. It takes one law and they stop those on-ramps and off-ramps. It's really just all about education. Just help people set up wallets all the time. Pay tip people in crypto. Just onboard somebody every day. It's up to us.
I'm a little bit more on the optimistic side of things. And the reason why is because one of my things I do is I usually try to do like some of the grunt work that's happening outside and following up stuff outside crypto. And what I'm seeing right now is there is a lot of geopolitical issues that are happening around the globe that transcend cryptocurrencies. And a lot of instability I'm seeing right now, and I believe that we are like on the edge or the cusp of some sort of change that I can't put my finger on, but it's happening. And it's not just with crypto, it has to do with their banking system. And I think it's going to be a forced change. It's not going to be a change that people are going to say, let's DeFi these. It's because what I'm seeing right now is there's systemic risk built into the system right now, such as negative interest rates. They're forcing people to rethink the way they actually store their money in the bank. And people are not going to stand by and watch their savings wither away due to inflation. They're actually going to start protesting and calling out changes in the system. And that's going to create a shock, what I call it. And the DeFi system is already in place for large institutions right now. If you take a look at what's happening with Ethereum and what's happening with the DAI tokens, the stable tokens, those are not coincidence. They're actually there. And people with smart money is already moving in that direction. And the fact of the matter is people are investing a lot of money in it. It indicates that there is these top people, these really smart individuals that have loads and loads of money. They're already realizing that at some point there's going to be a rush to the exits. And the DeFi space is just a preview of where it's heading. Had it not been the case, they wouldn't have invested that much money in. I can also tell you right now, Coinbase has custodial solutions kicking in, and the majority of those coins are actually moving towards DeFi, and they're also staking coins, which are part of that whole ecosystem. So for us, for the mainstream adopters, it's not there yet because it's difficult. It's very technically, it's challenging. And more importantly, it's not really user-friendly. And so, but with the institutional sides, they have custodial solutions right now that have already played. So the infrastructure is already being built. They just need to make sure that the roads, so to speak, are clear of any of the hurdles that they got to do. And that's going to take a little bit of time. But if you give it a timeline, within 5 years, we're going to have DeFi. And I think it's going to be across all banks. And it's not going to be just crypto. It's going to be your Wells Fargo's, your Bank of America's, and they're all going to be part of that entire system. How they fit into the picture, I don't know. But I think the tech is there. And I think that there's really smart people right now working towards that end goal.
Quick question for you. Do you think that DeFi is going to occur out of the country first before it happens in the United States? Because we have a lot of places like Venezuela and places in Mexico where there's economic uncertainty. There's the governments that are overthrowing the people. They're treating them really, really terribly because they're kind of forced to learn this.
Correct. So I'll tell you right now, I visited Asia, and Asia is like 10 years ahead in terms of applications. Also, the other part that's really hot right now is Africa. So Africa has a huge, huge connection with Asia, specifically with China. And I think that if you ask me which countries would actually are ahead, the U.S. is standing way behind. And I would say that within 10 years from now, the U.S. is going to fall behind in many of these adoptions. And I believe that these emerging countries such as even Hong Kong at some point is, talking about, the situation happening in some of the parts of the world like Venezuela and Hong Kong, those are going to be the hotbeds for a lot of these. And those people over there, a lot of them remember that their infrastructure has not been, they just barely they are adopting mobile technology at a much faster rate than the United States. In fact, they're not even using fiat anymore at some point, even in China. So I think, to your point, there are going to be a lot of countries right now that, especially emerging markets, they're actually going to take the lead. And I think the countries that already have something established, like the U.S., which have already centralized systems, they're not going to change fast enough because they already have vested interest to keep the status quo.
So my next question is, so what are some interesting projects around decentralized finance regarding lending and banking that are already up and running?
I think we've seen a lot of interesting traditional products that are moving to DeFi. Lending, obviously interest rates around that. I think people want to use them. For me, and with Exodus, our biggest goal is to try to figure out like how people use these products. And I think that although if you go to somebody and say, hey, you can get 8% interest on your Bitcoin, that sounds awesome. But if you can't do it, even if it's 60% interest on your Bitcoin, it doesn't really matter. And so with that question for me, I think that there are so many traditional models I think that are going to come over to this. Almost every model I think will come here. It's just a matter of can somebody actually use it from the mainstream?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of other like wallets that do lending or different programs where you stake your coins, and I think I don't agree with that. I'm more of a purist. If you don't own your keys, you don't own your crypto. So we can't even talk about decentralization unless you own your own keys. And then you get into other financial instruments with derivatives and staking, and God knows if there's even real transactions going on in these exchanges.
Right.
So I think, me personally, I think we're going in the wrong direction. We shouldn't be making crypto more like regular finance. This is an alternative, and we're making it the same.
So I think for projects like, as an example, like the DAI, we take a look at stable coins as an example, and you take a look at your top 20 cryptocurrencies and where the growth has been. A lot of the growth has actually been in stable coins. And if you take a look at your top projects that have, had a lot of investors coming in, a lot of them have been these tokens that actually have staking pieces to it. Now, I agree. I think there's this purist in me that says that you need to own the actual hardcore currency, such as like Bitcoin and gold, where it doesn't yield anything. The only problem with that is that institutions, which literally have the majority of the money, are never going to own something that does not return something back. And so, although I want to believe that it's a ground effort where everybody's kind of hodling their Bitcoin, in order to move to the next level, like I'm talking about the $3-4 trillion market, you need to attract a type of clientele that would like to get something for what they're owning. And this price speculation is not good enough. So I think that in terms of projects are going to be aligned to themselves. So I would say just go on CoinMarketCap or any of those, take a look at your top 20 projects, and look at the ones that actually are moving in where the money's flowing. You'll see a pattern. And as an example, like Tezos is an example of one project that has been actively working towards staking and things like that. But I mean, there's a handful of projects that kind of be moving in that direction. Not sure that's the right direction. I'm not here to, judge what's right or wrong. I think it's more about looking at trends and looking at where crypto is moving in. And I definitely agree that we should own our own keys and we should have our own stake, because otherwise we become no different than what we have already in the system.
So one of the things that I think of that something that banks do is they give loans to people as far as to purchase a home. And then I know really they don't do small business loans anymore, but do you think that there'll be a decentralized project that will actually help and kind of combat that? Because I would rather take a loan out from a crypto project to purchase a house, because I don't have, in California it's expensive to buy a house. Houses are like $500,000, $1 million. I don't have that kind of money lying around. I can't purchase one, in cash. I have to take a loan out from the bank. Do you think there will be something that will kind of combat that, that will kind of help people be able to do that, so they'll kind of pull away from the banks and use a DeFi project instead?
Yeah, I think we've seen some loan applications already where people do give loans for crypto assets. Now today they're over collateralized, so you have to say if I want to get $100 out, I have to put $300 worth of crypto in there.
That's not going to work for the average person.
Right. I mean, from a volatility standpoint, he's talking about DAI, that the stable coins, everything's kind of building on each other. And so you have to have stable coins in order to do a lot of these projects. And initially, before we had a lot of these stable coins, these projects weren't even a great thought. And so as these things, you'll see them build on top of each other. It's like Bitcoin came, and then the other assets came, and then somebody thought, stable coins, you need them for a financial system. Now, loans are, I see them as very early. And yes, they want to over-collateralize them because the market is so insane. Like, yes, if it's going to go down, they have to sell that, and you're out. But I think that a normal person, I mean, what do you guys think? Would a normal person really want to put up 300% collateral for something?
That's like one of those checking the cash places or something. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's not so. It's still, again, I think it's still early, and I would love to say yes, DeFi is going to take out everything. I just don't think that that's a reality anytime soon.
Yeah, I think maybe just taking it a step back, like how do we get credit? What do Equifax, TransUnion, and all those guys? I know there's some interesting projects in emerging markets where they do microloans, and they have a whole new tier of how you score credit. You know what I mean? There's something like that could be brought on the blockchain to where we decide who's creditworthy based on their reputation, on their, I don't know how you would do this, but then someone else chooses how much it is. And I know there are other programs, I forget what it's called, vending tree, I don't know what it is, but you can have a high risk loan, a medium risk, and you could be an investor in that loan. But you could just take 1% of that portfolio. So maybe there's 1,000 people giving this guy a $1,000 loan, and each person put $1. So that sounds like it could be something that could be on an ERC-20 token. I mean, that's where we're the ones, not the banks.
to me, it's kind of hard though because one of the reasons why I like to be in cryptocurrency and blockchain and why I'm an investor in Bitcoin is because I like my privacy as well. So when you start adding that stuff, like you start putting people's stuff on the blockchain, like who gets access to that, who's malicious and what's not. So it's kind of like walking a fine line. But at the end of the day, we do need loans, like to buy houses and especially property.
Yeah, I mean, to make a case in point, so if you take a look at Ethereum's run, when it first started out, Ethereum was really kind of like a hotbed for these ICOs. And during 2017's crazy mania, what you start seeing is people start coming out with platform tokens. The problem is that people couldn't really realize what Ethereum's use case was besides crowdfunding. And now that you're seeing Ethereum kind of evolve, originally it was really built towards creating dApps. And these dApps really came about with this idea of building payment systems. And payment systems were really kind of clunky because technically speaking, if you actually want to pay somebody in Ether or Bitcoin, it's a little bit slower than using fiat. I mean, fiat basically, if you really want to be anonymous, you can use cash, right? And so now we're kind of moving towards this, how do you use Ethereum as a way to move into the payment systems? And what people are realizing now is that credit is essential. Like in any system, if you actually want to loan people money, you want wealth to grow, you have to use credit. It's very difficult, like gold as an example, to haul in a whole brick of gold and say, I'm going to lend you gold, and you're going to lend that to somebody so they can make their life better. Eventually, the financial system has to evolve towards credit. So like it or not, cryptocurrencies have to move in that direction at some point, versus being just something where you make one transaction. Because credit actually moves a lot faster than if you needed to move and ship cryptocurrencies from one point to another. Now, as far as Ethereum is concerned, I think that what people are looking into right now is using ETH as a potential for loans, right? So if you own cryptocurrencies, you can stake that using the DAI token, and then from there you can lend out DAI, but you have to back it up with some sort of collateral. So rather than using fiat as collateral, you can use ETH tokens or Bitcoin. And I think that is definitely better than fiat because it puts the power back into the people. So now you have the opportunity to not only own Bitcoin, but also be able to have a stake in the credit system, which right now we are all locked out of technically. I mean, for you to take out a loan, you have to get a FICO score, you have to meet certain requirements. If the bank likes you, they like your skin color, they don't like your skin color, right? Then they won't loan you the money. If they want to charge you large interest rates, they can. If they don't, they think that you're someone who's a little bit questionable, they'll charge you 30% if they feel like it. We've already seen that with various companies, lawsuits coming out, breaches and Equifax, things like that. So I think DeFi, yes, I don't think it's a silver bullet, but I do think it puts back the power into the people by allowing people to give credit to people who actually may need it, and also to the people who would make it a little more equitable, in my opinion.
So let's get to everyone's favorite question. So let's talk about the importance to own your own assets for trading, exchanges, and wallets. Why is that important?
Well, this one speaks pretty close to my heart from why we built Exodus. We believe that we want people to own their own assets. I mean, I think that that's the best thing to do. You should. But I have to say that we don't tell everybody to use Exodus because I don't think that some people should own their own assets. We have talked to people before that either lose money because they can't control their own finance, or they don't want the responsibility. And so for me, that question comes more to an education model. It's like, are you prepared to learn what this means? And if you are prepared and you want to learn what it means, then you have to kind of go on that journey to know how you do your security, how you can control your finances, and how you want to. Ideally, in an ideal world, yes, I would love everybody to have their own private keys. It would be awesome. But there are certain people, and my friends will come to me and they'll say, hey, should I use Exodus? And I know these people, have known them for a long time, and I say, no, you shouldn't. Start with Coinbase. Get comfortable there, learn what you want to do, and then if you want to go to these crazy things like DeFi and you want to open up loans and you want to open up a CDP on MakerDAO, then great, pull some out and start to have fun. But I think that it's a learning experience first, and if you can learn to do it and you're willing to learn, yes, you should join that club and you should do it, but I don't think that it's for everyone to jump into right away. And the last thing I'll say about this is, if
They're having fun on the Saturday night.
if you get Bitcoin from somebody and you don't trust yourself to control your security, please, 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 by all means, put it in a centralized place like Coinbase. Let them control your funds until you learn how to do it yourself.
That is not an answer that everyone will want to hear. Thank you for being honest. Because if you say that, if you say keep your Bitcoin or your crypto on Coinbase, people get mad.
Well, I mean, we co-founded Exodus because I wanted a wallet that people can control their own wealth. Like, that's our whole thing, control your wealth. But I've also seen the opposite ugly side of that, where people have a private key and they're saving it to Evernote or they have it on Dropbox, and it's just it's that you can't do that. So I want people to like Bitcoin. I want people to like digital assets. If you love Bitcoin but you lose $10,000, I promise you will hate Bitcoin. So you have to learn first what to do and run. Walk before you run.
Yeah, I mean, like, since we've been here at Crypto Space,
You have horror stories.
Yeah, I have horror stories. We have horror stories because we didn't keep our keys. I mean, between exchanges getting hacked, the Department of Homeland Security seizing the funds, right? And I've also had horror stories where I didn't know how to manage my private keys, and I sent them to the abyss, right? So every mistake in the book. But more and more, I'm beginning to realize that I agree with you a little bit. As in, yes, everyone should own their private keys. They should know. But then I have those clients that no matter how much we tell them, they lose their paper wallets.
Exactly.
They lose their keys, and I'm like, what did I tell you? But they're like, but you said never keep them on an exchange, and I'm like, so more and more, I do agree with you a little bit, but they should know that if you have Bitcoin on an exchange, you don't own Bitcoin. They own Bitcoin. So they got to know that, meaning that if someone says, IRS says, hey, let's take a look at them, or maybe in the future they don't like what you post on social media, so let's freeze that account. So they just got to know that they don't own Bitcoin. They do, and if they're okay with that, they're fine. But most people don't realize, they think that, like, hey, I own Bitcoin. No, you don't. What kind of wallet do you have? Do you have your C-Freeze? You don't own Bitcoin. But I kind of agree with you there for some people.
Human error.
Yeah.
I'm kind of on the fence. At the beginning, I was like, I don't think we should let grandma, go through the whole thing because they can lose it by a digit. But the problem with that argument is that, remember, ladies and gentlemen, at one point in time, we all transacted in gold. Like, we had gold coins in our pocket. There was no computers. Literally, it was cash. If you got robbed at the side of the road, that's on you. People lost their money. But then somewhere down the road, we all kind of got babied into thinking that you don't really need to keep your gold or your cash in your wallet. You just give it to some sort of company, and they're going to do it for you. And then over time, we just began to forget that those digits on the computer are actually our hard-earned money that we trade time for. And when something gets hacked or somehow the bank freezes your funds, we kind of get all up in arms. But the reality is that, I think it's kind of like those things where you just kind of have to learn that if you learn that, you lost your money because you put in the wrong digit, then next time you're probably not going to do it again. But I think people are kind of afraid because we've been kind of so long into this idea that we need to trust an institution to hold our money, and if we can't, because we can't do it ourselves, we're kind of like ignorant. And I think that's the reason why we need to be involved right now in the financial system where people get ripped off and scammed. I'm not talking about cryptocurrency scams, by the way. I'm talking about going into like a car dealership and getting ripped off on a car loan, and you don't realize it until like 10 days later, or the fact is the matter is when you sign up for a student loan and you realize like 10 days later you can't write those off because apparently student loans can't get ripped off issues, right? Where people say, car, you don't have money, right? Reality is if you look at your wallet and you say, I only have 10 Bitcoin, that's all I got, I'm sure you're going to think twice about buying that new Mustang, next week. So I think it's a hard lesson and people are going to lose money, but I think it's better than getting scammed on the larger things. That I think it's happening much more prevalent now than ever before, especially when people buy houses, when people pull out credit cards, when people go ahead and purchase that car that they regret later, they can't get out of. So I think those are the more bigger issues than losing $200 because I sent it to the wrong person, or I got scammed on Twitter from some guy that has a picture of a dog when I wasn't supposed to. Right? So
that happened to you too?
That happened to me too. I was like, he says, get a free
I know, every single time. Free
like,
it always gets you.
Yeah, there was this one guy, he says, send 10 ETH, you get like 20 ETH back, and I was like, all right, so, or there's a giveaway for free ETH.
You got one of my impersonators that said that.
Yeah, you go on Twitter, you'll see a lot of stuff
we
like
know
that.
where all your
There's a picture of a dog.
Okay, so last question, and this is kind of another hot topic as well. So, regarding Facebook's coin Libra and centralization, let's talk about that, because a lot of people have been arguing and fighting about it. Some people are like, this is a good thing, this is great for mass adoption, it's going to get mom and dad and grandpa, aunts and uncles and cousins, everybody involved and excited because everyone's going to be using that Libra cryptocurrency that is not decentralized, or that is not decentralized, it's actually centralized. So how do you guys see that playing out? Let's talk about that.
Wow. So I'm gonna do another one of these things that people probably aren't gonna like on this one. I'll tell a story. When Facebook announced that they were going to do this coin, the guy that was a friend of mine that's a builder, a house builder, he came to me and he's like, did you see Facebook's going to do something like Bitcoin, And I was like, yes. And he said, can you tell me a little bit more about this? And I had this moment where I was like, this is so cool, because the reason that Facebook actually did this got this person interested in digital assets. And so I love these things because whether it's centralized or not centralized, to me it's a gateway into learning about digital assets. And so whether it's Walmart, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Deloitte, whether it's anybody, if you get into the space and somebody else learns about it, I think people are smart enough to come in, learn about it, and then maybe they are in the centralized system for a while, but if they want to break out, they will break out. So for me, I love anybody that just comes into the space, and I don't care whether they're centralized or not centralized. I think it's just, we're such a small pool of people that we just need more people to come hang out with us versus the worrying about whether it's centralized or not.
Keeping the privacy issues aside, like, what's going to happen if you do use the token?
They're partnered with like some of the top companies. Like me personally, I think that they are partnered with the government, and the government is just making a fuss to make us be is putting them through all these legal hoops just because they're partnering with them, and they're like with it. They're excited about it. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah. So when you set those things aside, competition is good.
Yes.
I mean, Amazon should have a coin. Walmart should have a coin. The government should be scared.
Don't let those maximums scare you.
Hey, Bitcoin doesn't matter. The thing is, competition is good, right? So it's innovation, and if all these other corporations, small, big, mom-pop shops, are now basically becoming their own banks and competing with the Federal Reserve, that's awesome. I may not agree with the philosophy of a particular company or another one, but it's a free market, and people should do whatever they want. And if If you want to use Facebook Coin, use it. If you don't, don't.
So my when I first did the video on Facebook Libra, I on my YouTube channel, I got a lot of like crap on it because obviously that was something that people said. Oh, all right, so you're saying that you're against Bitcoin, and well, don't you know it's centralized, and don't you know that Facebook is evil because they steal our data and all that, and there's two